Hi, in this tutorial I will discuss about data-sly-include and data-sly-resource. Basically, these two attributes or the block statements are used to include files or the resources, right? So let's discuss data-sly-include first. So what happened if you want to include any file? This file can be of any type which AEM support. This can be STL, means that HTML file, JSP file, ESP file. So you can include using this data-sly-include. So whatever is the hosting element, that hosting element content is replaced by the markup generated by that file. So what is the meaning of that? What is the meaning what I'm saying? So let me show you the demo so that there is nothing to explain much in this, so you can understand by demo. Okay, so in the same component I created few files like include one .html, include two .jsp, and then include three inside a folder called files, include three HTML. I'll show you. Okay, so that include one .html, it has content like I written some content. This is from file 1. Okay, so if you see, so what I'm saying here, okay, data-sly-include, and then simply I gave the file name, right? Because I'm in the same component and file is also on the same directory, so I do not need to give path. So what happened, let me remove this additional code just for the simplicity. I will later add it. Okay. So what happened, by this tag we'll call this including this HTML file. So what will happen, this whole tag will be replaced by the markup generated by this file, right? That means the whole this whole code will be replaced by a div, and that div contain this is file from 1. Okay, the same way I can include JSP file because their JSP is also in the same directory. Let's understand, if I have a file which is under some other path, right? I created this file under a folder files. So there is a property or the attribute called prepend path or append path, right? What is the meaning of that? These two, the configurations, you can say the configurations. Prepend path means whatever is there you gave in the prepend path, it will be added before this, whatever the file name you gave here. You can give a complete path including file or the file name. It depends where your file is. Okay, so what will happen by using the prepend path? It will include this slash files before this, right? So the final path would be slash files slash include 3.html, so that for this rendering this file will be available because this is under file 3. Okay, let me give you one more. You can use a file attribute as well. Okay, you can use @file as well. You can define @file and you are mentioning, okay, this is my file and I want to include this file. Okay, let me explain how append and prepend work. Okay, so whatever is there, this is the predefined append path and prepend path. So whatever is there in append path, right, this will be added after this, right? After this slash, you need to understand, it will not include it after HTML. It will be added after file name, right? It is include 4, so it will be added like include 4 slash append, and whatever is there in prepend file, it will be included before what you gave here. It's a combination of file and path, so whatever is there, prepend will add before that and append will add after that. So that way it will work. Excluding your file type means it will exclude .html. So what will be the final path? Okay, so after executing this whole, right, it will search for this path, and because this will not available, so it will not render anything. As I told you, append means it will append the here after the whatever I gave you in file plus path, and whatever I prepend, it will add before that. So finally this file path or name will not available, so it will not render anything. So that way it, you can understand append path and prepend path. Okay, so after deploy, hold this code to AEM. So what will be the output? Whatever the output of this file, that will be available here. If you see, the first one is the output of the first file, HTML file. The second one is output from the second JSP file, and this is from the third file, and this is for the fourth file. As I told you, that for the fifth one, this file will is never available because you append and prepend to a path and that path is not valid, right? So it will not display or render anything. So that way it work. There is one more concept you need to understand here is, let me show you. As I told you initially, the host element is replaced by generated markup, right? So what is the host element for this file one? This, right? This, right? Suppose I add something here, AEM geeks. So what should display now, right? If I save it and deploy it. So what should display in the first line, right? Either it should display this is from file 1 and then AEM geeks, right? So let's me refresh and see. It did not display the AEM geeks what I have added here, and that is correct. As I told you, data-sly-include completely replace with this host element. So what is the host element? This div, and this div element and this AEM geeks is also part of this host element, will be replaced by the markup generated by this file include one, right? And inside this file we do not have AEM geeks written. So you need to understand this point. Sometimes this has been asked in certification questions. Okay, so this whole the hosting element will be replaced by generated markup. So this is the thing you need to understand in data-sly-include. Let's understand data-sly now. Let me write few lines and then I'll explain how it works. Okay, so this is the way you have to write data-sly-resource, and inside that you should have a resource here, right? Here you should have a resource, right? You need to understand one point here. You cannot give file path here. You can give definitely a resource path here because you cannot directly access file in over AEM, right? You can definitely download it if you have already logged in with author, but in practical scenario you cannot directly access any file. You have to use resource. That files or script can be accessed through the sling request. Okay, so in this you have to add a resource path here. And what is the resource? Resource can be anything. It can be a component, it can be a node, it can be a path. Whatever resource is there that is rendering something, or that is rendered using sling request cycle. Okay, so as I told you, you can include any resource, right? So what happened when you include a resource, the rendered means the output or the rendered content will be available here rather than the resource. So whatever there is a resource, it is rendering or resolving something. So whatever the output, that will be included here. So as I told, you can add any resource. So let's understand here. So I have a page called author bio and it has a component called author, right? In another series I'm using this component. So can I include this complete page? Because page is also a resource, right? Everything is a resource, and the page is rendering some content, right? It's not a file. So can I write directly here? So let's see. This is my page and let's add this page here, right? I just added this page to it and just deploy. Okay, so let's refresh this. Yes. So you will be see here the complete whole page has been included, right? Whole page, whatever the page is there, because I gave page as a resource. So this complete page is included using data-sly-resource, this internal what you see here. Okay, so let's understand, rather than writing whole page, you only want to include this component, whatever is there in page. So you need to understand one point here. Whatever the resource you can include, just give the resource path. Okay, so let me show you where it is. Okay, this is my path. So you can include, you can give this path here. Okay, let me add another div. Okay, so I included data-sly-resource and then path till the component node. Okay, first one I commented out because otherwise you will have a complete page over here. Let's refresh it and just deploy. Changes to AEM. Okay, if you will be seeing here, the component resource has been added, right? Whatever is there, this component is now added using this data-sly-resource and then path. Okay, so but the as I told you earlier, as I explained, the prepend path and append path, prepend and append path is also work same as they work in include, data-sly includes. So let me show you. Rather, I want to display this component, but let give the path till here. Okay, and what you can do, I gave a path and now I'm appending the rest of the path using that append path. Okay, I use append path and remaining path I gave in append path. Okay, so let's refresh it, let's save it, let's deploy. So that way you can include, and it work, right? So what happened, it work in the same way like it worked earlier. So this path, this path will be added after this, right here, after slash. So the whole path will be the path of till node. So this will be included. Yeah. Okay, now you must have a question like, can you render any file? Can you show the output of any file? Because you cannot directly use your files. So, but you can use selectors, right? There is a multiple ways of like add selectors, remove selectors. So basically the for selectors I will have a separate tutorial, but for now let me explain how you can add any file. So what is happening here, there is a author component on this page, right? In this page I have a component called author, right? So where is that component? If you go in, this is already existing component, and if you are following that other series, developer series, I have used this component for the Sightly and multi-field related tutorials. Okay, this is my author. Okay, so what I'll do in this, let's add a file inside this, right? Let's add test.html. Okay, and write something inside this. Okay, so this file has a content like this is the test file. So what will happen, whenever suppose I want to display this file, so what is happening here, whenever I'm calling this till node, right? Let me show you, let me add completely over here. Okay, let's remove this for some time. And remove this. Okay, this is the component I'm displaying right now. So for this till node, this node resource type is that component, right? And when you calling this resource, that component is being used to render your output. So what I can do, suppose I want to display the output of that file what I created, so you can use add selectors, right? So what is that? There is a call add selector. Okay, so I'm adding selector. So till that node, that component is used to being rendered that this resource, and what I'm saying, add selector. By adding selector, you must aware, right, how selector works in AEM, in Sling. So for the till this path it will go, and after that it will add a dot text, right? Dot text means it will add a selector. So when you add the dot text, that file will be called, right? That file will be rendered what I created here, right? From that node, this is the component which is used to render. When I add selector, that means I'm selecting this file, right? So output should be, this is the file. So let's save it. Let me deploy this to AEM. Okay, now by this line the output should be, this is a file, this is a test file. Okay, let's refresh this, and you will see this output from the last line what I wrote here. Okay, that means I'm calling that file, but directly you cannot call it, you can call it using the selectors. Okay, so let me explain one more thing, right? You can add a resource, but you can restrict to the particular resource type, right? So whatever the resource is, you can restrict, okay, this is my resource, but the resource type should be this, only then this resource will render, or you can include this. So for what I can do, let's copy this Okay, so this is my node, which is basically a component node. So what I can do, I'm saying, okay, this is my resource type. Right, and now what is my resource type? My resource type can be only this component. Let's go here, and this is my component. Okay, just copy from AEM Geeks, do not copy from apps. Okay, here. So now this will render. Okay, I need to remove this because I'm assuming I'm giving a path till component node and remove all this stuff. Okay, let me comment other part. Okay, let me deploy. Now it should display render that output properly of that component, and it's correct, right? This is the output. This was the output of this file. In the component on that page, right? I'm displaying this, whatever this resource I'm using, data-sly resource, to get this resource. So whatever is there on that page, I'm getting here, and I'm saying here, okay, this only display this or render this only when my resource type is this. Suppose I am saying, okay, use this resource type, but this resource type is basically not available. Author one is not available anymore. So when I save it and deploy, so it means display or render this content if it is a resource type of this. But basically this resource type is not available, so it should not render at all. Okay, just refresh. Nothing will display, nothing will render, because it is now bounded to resource type, and which resource type is not available, right? So there are two conditions. First, what you are saying is this whatever node or resource you are adding, it should be of this resource type, only this will display. Okay, so now let me remove it for your reference. You will get this code in my Git repo, don't worry about it, you can get complete code. Okay. So these are the four scenarios. There is one more scenario. You can add component using this. So whenever you want to hard code that component, suppose you are in template or the page page component, and you want to add those component like header, footer and menu, so you can use this resource type. How you will do that, let me show you, but I guess you have already used it. This is the most common use case. The problem comes with these four use cases. People are not aware about these four. Okay, the last one is pretty common and almost everyone has used it, but let me show you. Okay, so using this, what I'm saying is, okay, add this path, add this component, author component, add this path, author. So this is this component will be included by this statement. So let it deploy and see how it works. If I'm refresh it, so you will be seeing here this component has been added using that statement. So these are the most common use case of data-sly resource. So you need to understand, you need to few points in your mind. First is data-sly-include your files, right? It will the container or the element which is keeping that include, that will be replaced by the markup generated by that file. Okay, but in case of data-sly resource, a complete sling request cycle is initiated, right, to render that resource, right, and whatever the output of that resource, that will be displayed to the user. Okay? So that way so these are the most common use cases of data-sly include and resource. I hope you understood. If you have any question, please do comment. Thank you very much.